welcome to episode Rust Pass. What are we, 28? Is this 28 or 29?
It's possible.
Okay. Oh, come on. Peachy, what episode is this?
28.
Thanks, Peach. Episode 28 of Vaporwort Podcast with Jill Boys, Rust Pass, Peach, and Walt. And as you kind of heard from that introduction, Peach is not here today. He is MIA. Hopefully, the rumor has it he's currently building his own Hell in a Cell rig at home to prep for some... Holy shit, did Becky actually win? Oh, yeah. Damn it. That's awesome.
That's a wonderful intro, Walt.
That is, yeah.
I will say rumor has it that PG will not be painting his Hell in a Cell red.
No. So, yeah, PG's not here. We are recording this live as WWE Hell in the Cell pay-per-view is going on. And as I was doing the intro, Becky Lynch just won the SmackDown Women's title from Charlotte, which I was not expecting that to happen.
Nah, no, not at all.
Good.
I'm kind of expecting Charlotte to almost like go to shake her hand and then her beat her up. Like a way to turn it to what
yeah
that fans wanted this in the first place, with Charlotte as the heel and Becky as the face.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're gonna do here.
This does confuse me. I did tell you I expected to see one title change hands. This just wasn't the title.
You did. For reference, this is not a Hell in a Cell reaction show. Just literally,
as always, we're watching Hell in a Cell while we're recording.
Yeah,
we record on Sunday nights.
Yeah, and this is a pretty big event that I was not expecting to happen. So Rest Pace, I will let you, since it's just going to be you and me this week. It's probably going to be our best episode since our NXT prediction show for WrestleMania weekend, when it was just you and me again. So all the comedy chops are going to be there.
Greg and Fico were hell of a fill-ins for PG the 2 weeks he missed.
They were.
Which was after the NXT prediction show.
I was more making a joke at how terrible you and I are just on podcasts together. That was the joke.
We do a podcast with just the two of us every week.
We do. Well, he's here. PG's he usually says
he's here. He just don't talk.
Yeah, he could actually be here for all we know. Just
you literally could have said that he's here and nobody would have noticed.
I should have done that. That would have been kind of funny. No, but I will let you discuss the topic this week since you kind of threw it out there as the idea.
Well, for those of you that listened last week, I said, Peach, Walt, please don't give me until like 2 days before the episode for a topic. Let's try to get it tomorrow. And what happened, Walt? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday rolls around, and I'm asking them, hey, what are we doing this week? Because nobody ever comes up with anything. So, my idea was, it was Paul Heyman's birthday, September 11th, 12th? Something like that.
I didn't send him a card.
Yeah, I didn't either, but it was somewhere. Either way, he had a birthday someday. And it made me think about let's do managers this week. You know, let's do an episode on managers. And then I want to say about a day after, maybe 2 days after, there was a rumor going around that WWE or Vince McMahon wants to start utilizing managers more, which is funny because in the past apparently he hated managers. So
and that does lend credence to so you got Drake Maverick, your 205 general manager, is now the manager for the Authors of Pain. Which I don't.
And then was it Leo Rush?
Is basically doing it with
looks Bobby like Lashley.
Yeah.
Now it's a rumor. There's almost nothing to this. I'm assuming that rumor came out after somebody watched Raw and seen this, and they were like, "Oh, Vince must like managers again," you know. But either way, it made for a fun little topic for this week, I thought.
Yeah, and the question you kind of posed out there, I think, to everybody on the internets was that, pick any 4 superstars with any manager, not current day, but any manager of all time and kind of pair them up.
Yeah, 4 current WWE roster superstars. So it could be that includes NXT, 205 Live, anything, and any type of combination. Try to get 4 superstars with any manager ever. That manager is never even needed to be in WWE. Technically, it's just the all-time manager with a current grouping from today. Want to see what we got put out there. I kind of expected some of the same ones because that's where my head went, but I just came up with mine 10 minutes ago.
So I have a hard time like picturing this topic just because like I have a hard time placing different managers with different people and like, oh, how would they be better? Would they be worse? Like, and here's the thing, and this is what's going to be shitty. It's like, you saw it in a bunch of the responses. Paul Heyman is the common piece here that is like he would work well with any person, any group of people.
Yes. Yeah.
And then like so I actually just kind of started thinking of one as we were sitting here doing this as a kind of a group. And this is where I don't know. I don't really know because I don't know much about them, but I think the group pairing would work really well.
Okay.
So here's what I got: Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Roderick Strong, Adam Cole, with manager Nigel McGuinness. A kind of true ROH stable. I think they would be. I think like their main talking point to me would be, how they have more experience than all these WWE guys, and basically be the anti-WWE. And just kind of go from there. I think it would work well because like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Adam Cole, I think they're all good friends. I'm assuming Roderick Strong too. Nigel McGuinness is the mouthpiece just because he was known for his Ring of Honor days, and since he can't just wrestle anymore, I think he'd be a good mouthpiece. I like how he talks as well. I don't know how he would be as a manager because right now he's just an announcer.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about him to truly say that, but that was one that was kind of came to mind, like as we were sitting here talking about it.
All right.
Yeah.
I tried to stay a little bit away from Undisputed Era. Like there were certain groups I tried to stay away from.
So there was, I think, was it Greg that posted Sonny with the Undisputed Era?
Yeah, I think it was actually on my personal Facebook.
Yeah,
it was Sonny in the Undisputed Era, which like I said, I expected a lot of Undisputed Era. The reason why I tried to keep it to WWE is because I knew we were going to see a lot of the Bullet Club. I just knew it, and I was trying to stay away from it a little bit. Actually, there's Paul Bear and the Wyatt family.
That was the Geoffs, right?
Geoff, yeah.
Yeah, that was... Yeah. I thought about that, and I like it, but for whatever reason, Paul Bearer seems a little too hokey for me to fit in with what the original kind of Wyatt family was.
Right.
So, like, if it could, like, turn it, I don't know, like, turn it down. Like, this is where I have an issue with kind of making these mashups of, like, Paul Bearer with the Wyatt family. But I'm like, I don't know. Paul Bearer would, I think, have to change a little bit. But then when he changes a little bit, does that change his impact on the group?
Right. And see, the funny thing is, I tried putting NY, and I didn't expect many people to explain.
Yeah.
But I think, like, matchups like that, like, I guess mashups, mix-ups, whatever, like that, you need to explain, you almost need to expand it a little bit. Because, like you said, you can't visualize it right now. The Paul Bear and the Wyatt family you can't envision it. And what makes this tough is, and I tried to do it a lot, like, you tried to find a connection between your 4, right?
It's, to me... One second. Sorry. My little Pokemon figure fell over, and I needed to pick him back up.
No.
See, we have other
Speaking
interests.
of Pokemon, you see this, Walt?
What is that? Is that...
Fruit snacks.
Fruit snack gummy Pokemon?
Pokemon. They were good.
God, that's awesome. Maybe we should turn this into a Pokemon podcast when without Peachy here.
This is what happens when Peachy's not here.
Yeah, yeah, I tried to, like, as with any group, there needs to be a reason they're together. And, like, I have a hard time, like, especially, like, so right now, Ziggler and McIntyre just came out. It's the tag team title match as Hell in a Cell. They explained why they're together, but they still don't fit well to me. And, like, it just doesn't make sense. And it's just like, okay, they're being forced together.
Right.
You make a group like I said, that Ring of Honor group. It all makes sense. Like, they could explain it to the audience for new people that don't watch, like, Ring of Honor or anything like that. But then you have people that watch them in Ring of Honor know, okay, this is a grouping that made sense. That's why the Undisputed Era makes so much sense, because it's Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly, all from Ring of Honor, and they were basically trying to do the Ring of Honor group.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. That's why the only times I think those type of groups, like the Wyatt family stuff, is when you don't have a background on certain wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know, like you knew Husky Harris, you knew they were turning him and stuff, but did anybody really know who Harper and Rowan was? And I'm talking about pre-NXT. I didn't.
Nope.
You know, like there wasn't a pre-existing. It was only really Husky Harris that you had to kind of turn into Bray Wyatt. And when that happened, it was wonderful. But you're not mixing up Luke Harper that used to be, you know, some other character. Like if they were all three different characters and they didn't explain it.
Yep.
Like it can happen. Like with Gallows when he went from Festus
to the Straight Edge Society?
Yeah, to Straight Edge Society. There was an explanation there.
Yeah.
They didn't just randomly come out one week. He explained that Festus was on drugs, and that's why, you know, anytime the bell rang, he went nuts. Like, they went in a whole explanation of it, and you're like, oh, okay.
So
it makes sense.
Not to go, like, to keep going down the hole of groups. So we just made a couple like stables that could have possibly had a manager associated with them, like Straight Edge Society and the Wyatt family. Like looking at the Wyatt family, I didn't think they needed a mouthpiece like as a manager, because
I agree.
Bray Wyatt had Bray Wyatt was so good on the mic, and you didn't need that manager there. Same thing with Straight Edge Society. You had Punk on the mic. You didn't need a manager there. That's what I'm even looking at, like thinking about this Ring of Honor one. I'm like, I don't even know if you need one, because you have Kevin Owens on the mic there, which would be perfect.
Right.
That's where I don't.
But actually, the Nigel McGuinness thing fits in my mind, because it's almost like you're throwing a former wrestler in there. It's not like as much a mouthpiece as it is. He's a part of the group. He just can't wrestle anymore.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I that's why I actually did like your Nigel McGuinness as opposed to putting somebody else that needs to be the mouthpiece of a group.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he has to be.
Nigel McGuinness could also, like, the way he could also be the Paul Heyman, like how Paul Heyman was back in like the when it was the Alliance. Like, remember when Paul Heyman was on commentary, and he was basically the Alliance's voice, compared to, I think it was Jim Ross, I think he was paired with at the time, his voice. So, like, Ross was the WWE guy, Heyman was the WCW, ECW guy. And I think you could get that with a Nigel McGuinness, especially with, like, a 3-person announce team now. You throw Nigel McGuinness on, he can really speak up for, like, his boys, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, to go back to managers, so what's yours? What was yours? You did.
Okay. So, yeah, I was going to start going across these, but we'll get into mine first, and then we'll kind of discuss everybody else's. Now I have to remember it. That's the bad thing. I said I just came up with it.
Way to be prepared.
Right,
Way to be prepared.
I went with Ciampa, Baron Corbin, The Bar, and then I went with Ted DiBiase as the manager.
Like $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase?
Yes.
Or or the son?
No, not Junior.
Okay.
The actual $1 Million Man.
There was one I saw, I think it was on the Reddit post, and it was $1 Million Man with Bobby Roode, EC3, Tino Sabatelli, and Roderick Moss.
Yeah, and I tried going to like Rude and EC3 in mine, and I didn't like it as much. See, the thing I liked about this was, one, the bar has always, they've always rubbed me as a team that would be a team for hire, if that makes sense. Like, they just have that look and feel to them, that if Ted DiBiase just threw them money to say, hey, protect my guy, they would, you know? So that's what I originally had Authors of Pain in there, and I was like, no, you know what? The bar seems like people that would do things they don't care about doing just for money. I don't know why they give all that vibe to me. They just do.
Yeah, you're right. It based off of AOP doesn't make sense because they would just go to destroy, but it wouldn't be, you wouldn't have that heelish antic of like, oh, they're just doing it for money type of stuff.
Yeah. And I feel like, and I'm not necessarily talking about Constable Corbin, but the fact that he's Constable Corbin right now defends that pick a little bit too. He also comes off like a guy that is like, you know, you're going to pay me to do this, I'll beat the hell out of people. And
Constable Corbin, he can do the, basically since he's got it in with like the Authority.
Yeah, I was thinking more Baron Corbin, not Constable Corbin, but
okay.
But I think his Constable Corbin gimmick shows that his character a little bit.
At first, I thought you were just picking all bald head people.
No, I'm talking about pre-bald Corbin.
Okay.
And Sheamus isn't bald.
I know, that's what I was trying to figure it out when you first said it.
No, literally, the connection was I was trying to think. I was trying to fit Kevin Owens into a group.
You're trying to think Guns for Hire, essentially, would be the group?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of a little bit more chicken shit heel. Yeah. And, like Ciampa's a badass, but he's also chicken shit. So him wanting people behind him, bigger than him, to take care of his dirty work makes sense in my mind. But then you need the backing, and in my mind, $1 Million Man, more than anybody else, you know, he's got the money, he pays for it, and then he helps them. You know, they're all, Corbin makes sense as a mid-title guy. The Bar's always involved in the tag team titles, and then Ciampa would be the main guy.
Really, you consider Ciampa your WWE champion guy?
With backing, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I don't know that he's there on his own, but you give him that stable behind him, and maybe he gets there. To be honest with you, it was Kevin Owens, Cien Almas, and McIntyre were my original three. I was trying to fit a group around them, and then I kind of fell on Ciampa.
See, I was trying to think of stuff too, where with like, I wish they would have did something more with like an NXT group for Triple H. Like in Owens, the Revival, who else? I was thinking of like a woman. Like at this point, I would say, I don't want to say Shauna Blazer, whatever the fuck her name is.
Shayna,
thank you. Just because I think she would have her own story, but like Owens, the Revival, and someone else under Triple H. And they'd be the NXT group, the NXT Takeover group, or something like that, and you set it up for your Survivor Series match. I think that one would work really well.
So you do Nia Jax.
Yeah, there was one. Again, this was from the Reddit post that you did that I really liked the idea of Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Nia Jax. Basically managed by The Rock.
And that was one of the first ones that came into my head. Like I said, anything that initially jumped into my head, I decided not to do.
Really?
Because I thought it was too obvious, and I asked this across so many different places. I didn't want to have the same thing as somebody else.
You had to be your own unique little snowflake.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Let me throw it out since we're just talking about managers. So far, we've all mentioned male managers with this. What about like the dichotomy of like a female manager? Like, do you like that, or like the male with the females with the males? Like, there's definitely some that stick out in my head as manager. Like when Terry Reynolds was the manager for the Hardy Boys.
Okay, you're speaking all time. I wasn't sure if you were talking about like currently.
Nah, not current, all
in
time.
WWE.
All time. Like just general thought.
There was I mean, obviously Sonny did it perfectly. Stacy Keibler did it, almost as good. It's when they're actually involved, I appreciate them more. Like Stacy Keibler always dancing up on the ring apron, kind of like to distract the other team. When they're actually there, more than just what was Terry Reynolds just kind of sat out in the outside.
Well, yeah, they
cigar.
won. Yeah, well, I was more thinking like Terry Reynolds as when she was with the Hardys. Like nothing.
She was with the Hardys.
Yeah, when she had that tournament or something for her services and like $10,000 or something like that, and I think the Hardys ended up winning it. It wasn't long, and it was not it wasn't as impactful of like when Lita was with the Hardys. But then Lita, that's a good one too. Like she was the manager for their tag matches, but then would also get in the ring and wrestle. Yeah,
I don't consider that a manager.
You don't. Okay, so you strictly consider a manager just someone that a non-wrestling entity.
Yeah,
like a Bobby the Brain Heenan. I think Paul Elrig. I don't think he wrestled.
Yeah, or at least at that point in their career,
yes.
That they're not wrestling. Like I expect, like when I have $1 Million Man in mind, it wasn't like young $1 Million Man that's going to come out and wrestle.
No, it was when he was the manager.
Him. Yeah. It's the same thing, like you saying Nigel McGuinness. I'm not picturing him suddenly being able to wrestle again. I'm picturing his wrestling days are over, and he's only out there.
Although, like
as far as manager,
I would like to see that group. If it was like if Daniel Bryan never came back, I think I would replace McGuinness with Daniel Bryan. Like,
okay,
it'd be like a heel Daniel Bryan.
Right,
like, which would be hard to do, but
that's funny because that could have stemmed right off of the whole Shane McMahon thing and everything. Especially
when Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Yep, exactly. Like it again, it makes sense. That's the biggest thing I think is like when this stuff makes sense. So here's a question then with managers: Selena Vega. Like, do you consider her a manager then right now? Like with it because she's wrestling now.
Yes, because I feel like the only time she wrestles is when it's storyline based. I don't think we haven't seen her in just a normal women's match.
I think she
right.
She hasn't been in it's all been like you said based off of a storyline. Like I think she wrestled maybe Brie Bella. And then I think she wrestled Carmella. But when Andrade was fighting R-Truth or something like that.
Right.
So that's when you're okay when a manager kind of would wrestle. If it's just
if it's a female manager and honestly a male manager too. Yeah, that's I don't consider them a manager if they're wrestling on their own.
If they're going
if Selena Vega was working her way up the ranks to try to compete against Charlotte, like wrestling in like a number one contenders match or whatever, then I'd start like, oh, okay, well they're using her more as a wrestler now. But I consider her, she's more in my mind a manager that kind of helps out when she has to against the females of whoever Andrade's wrestling. And even in NXT, she was more of that.
Yeah, she never wrestled in NXT. Or
at least what against Candice?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, that was yeah. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that.
It was still in NXT. It doesn't matter if she was still. But yeah, I don't. That might be the only one. But that's what it was storyline. She wasn't trying to work her way into the women's division, and I feel the same way about her now. I don't think she's considered like a contender or even a thought. Honestly, Lana falls under the same kind of thing in my mind.
Yeah, like they tried to separate her off, and like I was really like pulling for her to do well with it, but it doesn't make sense at all with for Lana to be separated from Rusev in like a non-managerial role.
Nah. Well, you know what? Speaking of that, do you prefer your manager to be somebody who can wrestle now and again, or do you prefer, more like Bobby the Brain Heenan, Paul Heyman, stuff like that?
I prefer the more non-wrestling type, just because. But then the manager has to be willing to get involved in, like to get physical. Like when just recently when Samoa Joe and Lesnar were fighting for the title, and Joe choked out Heyman. To me, that was very impactful because Paul Heyman doesn't wrestle. But here he is getting involved, and like here is like he looks like a feeble man that is getting choked out by this. But that's what he looked like.
Yeah, I know. I'm laughing, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, so that's where I'm like, I like the non-wrestling type just because I think it then adds more. You can do. There's a little bit more you can do.
Right.
With like any storylines, like especially if the team's a heel or a face, like it allows you to kind of go down that road. But then again, I don't want them doing it every time.
Right.
Yeah, like I didn't want like Paul Heyman to get choked out every time in a match that.
Yeah, then it's not, like you said, it's not as impactful if it's happening every time Lesnar's wrestling. He's getting beat the hell up.
Who are some of your favorite managers
of all time?
Yeah, of all time. We didn't prep for this, and I said we were going to kind of do this like a Peach Pit type scenario where we just ask questions.
Yeah.
So let's go down this route. Some of your favorite managers.
I don't know if you could necessarily call him a manager, but I love when Flair was a little bit. See, I'm going to tell you that I like my managers to not be wrestlers, and I'm going to completely contradict it by saying I loved when he was a member of Evolution, where he was basically a manager, but then also
he was tag
team with Batista.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he was thought of, but that's what his role in that group was the old veteran, kind of like a manager, but then, hey, we need a tag team partner with Batista. All right. Yeah.
You think
I just love Flair.
I was going to say, do you think Flair knows how big Batista's dick is?
Probably.
I just had to get that in there.
$1 Million Man, I don't know that I necessarily like the $1 Million Man more than I like the gimmick.
I like the gimmick. $1 Million Man is up there for me. I think it's a great gimmick. I think it can work pretty well for anybody. You can pair him with a lot of people, and I think like that one poster where you put $1 Million Man with like Bobby Roode or something like that. Right. I think that just seals the deal with it. And like Bobby Roode and EC3 or something like that. Again, I would love to see I like Dixie Carter kind of as a manager. Like
really?
when she was with EC3, because hey, that helped make EC3. And that's where I don't know if it's a manager per se or like if she was that owner role, but like that's what I would love to see WWE bring her in to manage EC3.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. I know some people were asking for it. I know you've been asking for that for a while now. I don't know.
I think I think the whole Dixie Carter thing. I think that you bring you're never going to get that reaction of when Eric Bischoff showed up on Monday Night Raw, because nobody's going to know who Dixie Carter is to that level when she shows up on a Monday Night Raw. But you put her down while he's down in NXT, and you have Dixie Carter interfere in a match with him at like a takeover, that place will erupt because all the NXT fans know who Dixie Carter is. A Dixie Carter managed stable would be good too. You
bring
do
a bunch of
Styles, Joe.
yeah.
Who else was? Who'd be a good tag team for that? Are there any tag teams over now that had not like, I'm trying to think, really like a strong presence in TNA that are in WWE now?
I can't. I mean, if they did, they weren't long enough in TNA. I think that
Like, ones that come to my head, I think, are like the Motor City Machine Guns. Like, it'd be awesome if they signed them, but that's...
you bring you get James Storm back, and you bring
Beer Money?
Beer Money.
That would be a weird change, though, for Bobby Roode to go back to his Beer Money gimmick, especially now. Listen,
What are they doing right now with Bobby Roode?
Absolutely nothing.
No, isn't he like in a tag team now?
Yeah, with Chad Gable. They're basically trying to recreate Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, except they replaced Jordan with Bobby Roode.
Exactly my point.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it would be a welcome change for people.
Yeah, that would actually be, and then Beer Money, Styles and Joe, managed by Dixie Carter. I think that would be pretty sick.
What you do is you do Chad Gable, Jason Jordan, Shelton Benjamin, and Kurt Angle is the manager.
Well, yeah,
and as the manager and the main guy, he does double duty.
What do you mean? What do you mean as the main guy?
He could be the face of that group. He can wrestle.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then he's got Shelton Benjamin's the mid Carter. You got Jordan and Gable, the world's greatest stable.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Even as you're talking, and I'm still trying to think of managers, I see somebody posted one. And actually, I was a fan of him in TNA. James Mitchell.
James Mitchell.
I hope I'm getting his name right. Abyss's manager.
Oh, okay. I didn't pay too much attention to Abyss, so offhand, I'm not sure.
What when? You didn't pay too much attention to Abyss.
Yeah.
Is that how?
Yeah, he never I get he's good and all, but he just never interested me.
Yeah, I think I more was interested in his manager than I was him, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it was around that time that I guess I first started watching it when Hogan jumped over and Flair, Mick Foley. Actually, no, I shouldn't even say that. I started paying attention around when Kurt Angle moved over because he was my favorite wrestler. So I started to lose interest once all those other guys started jumping over, and then you get like a Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair main event while they're both 70. But around the time that Kurt Angle went over, and you got like Angle with Joe and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure around that time Abyss had him as a manager.
For managers, do they only go to basically heel type wrestlers? Like, is that where they work best? I mean, I think they work best that way, but is that the only way you can use managers in like a heel role?
See, that it's funny you say that because I was trying to think of a face stable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't come up with it. So yeah, I mean, the only time that you can consider like a certain stable kind of face is when they fall under that they were a heel, but they were so badass and entertaining that people start cheering them
for them. Yeah,
like DX and WO, shit like that. It was a heel. They were a heel group. They started getting cheered way too much, and it kind of you got the Shield. Shield falls in that same thing. They were not meant to be good guys at all, and when they started making that turn, that was around the time with the whole greatest trios in history match or whatever, right?
I forget. I know it was around WrestleMania. I want to say 29 or 30, maybe. I think that's when it was. I want to say it was 29 because I want to say their tag team match they fought at that WrestleMania basically had them being them be the faces of the group. Because I think they went against the Outlaws and Kane and the Outlaws were the heels. Because they were like working for Triple H or something.
Right. But yeah, and I thought, wasn't it at one point, wasn't it like Orton, Batista, and Triple H against the Shield?
Yeah,
that one of those pay-per-views. It was.
That was right after. Yeah, that was WrestleMania 30. Yeah, right. It was WrestleMania 30 when they fought the Outlaws and Kane. So yeah, it was right after that.
But yeah, let's not stay too far on the stables. I just realized we're getting way.
Well, it's an interesting way that we're kind of presented, like the way the question was presented and how we're discussing it is we are talking about stables in a sense.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, even when I came up with the manager's idea, I don't know that we would have gotten an episode's worth of content out of managers. So a way to kind of discuss managers a little bit. You almost have to talk about stables, you know?
Yeah. I forget if I posed this or does a manager need to be the mouthpiece? Or, like, meaning that the wrestler can't talk at all, so they need a manager? I.e., like, Ronda Rousey right now.
Does it need to?
Or, like...
No. I think it depends on the wrestler.
So, like...
There's certain times that it works... regardless,
like when Punk and Heyman were paired together, Punk doesn't need anybody to talk to him on the mic.
Right. Yeah, I look at it like again, this is in TNA. When you had Ric Flair, the manager of AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Styles needed it. I mean, he just needed it. He did. He needs somebody to speak for him. I know he's doing pretty well here in WWE. But he needed it. he wasn't that great on the mic.
Yeah, he was
having Flair around him, and
relatively younger.
And to be honest with you, his gimmick is a little bland. You know, like especially in TNA, there's a little like it needed that. So he started coming out like Flair and stuff like that. So that made that a little interesting in itself. I think certain people need it. It's when they force it on it that I don't necessarily like it.
What about we're watching? This idea just came to mind. So Mick Foley is on the screen right now as because he's refereeing the main event tonight, I guess. Mick Foley as a manager for Dean Ambrose.
Okay.
A while ago, they were supposed to have that feud, like when Ambrose was in NXT.
I'm so pissed that never happened.
Yeah, me too. But I think it would work well. Like, I see. This is where I don't know how well it would work, just because of the whole PG thing. Like, Ambrose can't get as hardcore as, people know him when he was John Moxley. Moxley. I forget how he actually pronounced his name.
You said both of them. One of them has to be right.
Yeah. So people knew how hardcore he was, and then you had Mick Foley as the hardcore legend, kind of showing him, training him that way to do more hardcore matches, but you can't really do hardcore matches anymore because of how WWE's programming is.
Right. It's funny, and I'm sitting here, as you said that, thinking, does Dean Ambrose need it? So, I must be partial to heel groups because I'm like, does Dean Ambrose need it? Does he really need a manager?
Nah, he does not. Like, not at all. But I
know, but like it's funny because does Kevin Owens need one?
Yes.
I'm not talking about the way they're booking Kevin Owens. I'm talking about Kevin Owens in general. Does Kevin Owens in general need one? And I don't believe he does.
It's the way, like, this is the only reason why. See, again, it depends on which kind of Kevin Owens you get. The kind of current Kevin Owens, I think, needs one because he needs someone to, like, work the deals to get him championship matches and things like that. If you get the prize fighter Kevin Owens when he first came into NXT, then no. Like you do not need like Samoa Joe is essentially like kind of right now like what Kevin Owens was when he came into NXT.
And Samoa Joe was one of my handful of guys that I had as being the main event guy in the stable. Why? Because he's a heel.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing now. I'm like, I had Drew McIntyre, I had Samoa Joe, I had Kevin Owens, I had Tommaso Ciampa. The common thread there is they're all heels.
I thought it was all bald.
Yeah, but that too.
But I'm just, you know me,
bold.
I'm just... Wow, man, they are putting the WWE Championship title match, and this is, again, we're watching Hell in a Cell. This bothers me that this match is not in Hell in a Cell. I don't get why.
Part of me does.
Why?
Part of me does, only because,
with just how personal it's been, this almost, if anything, this makes sense for a Hell in a Cell match.
If this wasn't, it should have been Becky and Charlotte. Those both made sense. But to top it all off, I understand why they went with Hardy and Orton, because these are all title matches. I know that's had a long, drawn-out thing, but to make that feel special like the rest of the card, I can understand it. Because they're all title matches outside of Maurice and Miz and Bryan and Brie Bella, which that doesn't need anything attached to it. That storyline is its storyline in itself. But are you going to have 3 Hell in a Cell matches?
No.
The only thing they could have done was just have Hardy and Orton in a regular match and have it in the pre-show, which is probably what they should have done.
Side note, what do you think of the red Hell in a Cell?
I love it.
Really?
To be honest with you, it doesn't bother me. It weirdly, when you see the side of the ring, like when they were showing it for Hardy and Orton's match, it actually didn't look as bad from the certain camera angles because of the fire and stuff on the side of the ring.
Yeah, I think it just looks stupid. Like I was just like, I get like they're just trying something different with it. I guess I don't know, but I'm just like it doesn't come off great on TV. I don't think.
I would like to think there's a reason for it, so I'm going to give it until the end of the Strowman-Reigns match to figure out what the hell that reason is.
Are you actually going to stay awake until the end of this pay-per-view? I'm not. I'm not making it through this whole thing.
I ain't got work tonight.
The fact that this match is on now is like, okay, I can go to bed.
My favorite match is going to be Strowman against Reigns.
Yeah. Do we all have, or no, Peachy has...
Just assume Peachy has something different. If
Peachy has Strowman women. Yeah. Different. We have Reigns winning, which I'm really hoping Reigns loses just because I think something goofy is going to happen because you can't have 2 years in a row your Money in the Bank briefcase winner fail to cash in.
That's where I was confused by all this because I don't know, how do you have Strowman? What was the point of having him win it to just lose it? Couldn't you could have given it to anybody else?
Yeah,
and Strowman still could have had this match against Reigns.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't get it. But that's where I'm just like, I don't know, and I don't see. I don't know.
All right. Well, that was our Hell in a Cell portion of the episode.
Yeah. Back to managers.
Well, how about, you know what? I'll run through some of these so we can kind of get some of the other managers that we may have missed.
Get some content for this episode?
Yeah, since we were extremely prepared for this.
Although I will say, I think I'm filling the role of Peachy pretty well. By just throwing out
you know what it is? He's not here, so we both feel like we need to fill that role.
Well, I'm throwing out the random generic questions, the John Madden questions, if you must.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to think. I don't know who my favorite manager is. I know I asked you, but I can't think of.
I mean, it's hard not to go with Paulie.
Yeah, but I hate that. That's the deep. Like Paul for who? For Lesnar or for?
In general.
Paul's hit. He's hit or miss. Like he didn't do. I thought he was doing all right with Curtis Axel. I think just Curtis Axel had a hard time getting over. Heyman with Punk, that made sense again. See, that's where again it's all where it makes sense. Paul Heyman with CM Punk made sense. Heyman with Lesnar made sense. Heyman with Ryback, that did not make sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to turn it into, who's the Paul Heyman guy? Heyman with Punk, I think, was really good. Because Punk didn't need Heyman. Heyman didn't need Punk. But it worked.
Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah. I would like to see Heyman, though, with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yes. Oh, Styles got a Connor's cure on his gloves. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So,
maybe
go
we'll
ahead.
Get them. We'll send them Apronwear podcast gloves.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here's some answers here for you.
Yes, because our listeners and responders are much better at this than we are.
Yeah. Okay. We'll start with Twitter. So we have Figo's inside source,
Mike Berry.
Mike Berry. He's always thought that having Bobby Heenan, Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, Zack Ryder, and Kurt Hawkins.
I like that already because
and then he actually explains it. So I'll get an explanation here real quick. Heenan could elevate tag team of Hawkins and Ryder.
Yep.
You got the Mr. Perfect vibe with Ziggler. The heel manager antics would go great with The Miz, and the connection to Hollywood is natural.
That's a really good one.
It is. It's funny. I love Kevin Owens. I love The Miz. I was trying to get some type of Miz or Kevin Owens. I don't like doing these things and saying, hey, I want Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, like putting 4 main event guys in it. I want it to make sense.
No, you need.
You don't say, "Hey, I want AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and Roman Reigns in a stable." It's
yeah,
like, what?
You need to have your roles. Like Evolution in a stable, it was the very good roles, to where you had Triple H as your main event guy, Orton as like the mid carder, and then you had Flair as the I can't talk, as your veteran presence, and then Batista as like the really up and comer. Yeah. And they slid into those roles perfectly.
Yeah.
And then a team like that would work really well because like you just filled out those roles.
I love that he went Hawkins to Ryder and not the Hype Bros.
Oh, come on. No, Hawkins and Ryder. I'm dying for them to get a tag team.
That's what I'm saying. I love that he went with them as opposed to Hype Bros. Not that I expected him to go Hype Bros, but still, I don't know that I would have read that answer had it been Hype Bros. So, okay, we only had 2 responses on Twitter. We're not loved on Twitter. It says, I would pair Conan with Lucha House Party. Got to be honest with you, don't know who the hell that is.
It's
and Almas to make the new LWO.
Lucha House Party is Grand Metalik, Kalisto, and I forget who the other one is. They're all on 205 Live.
205 Live.
Yeah, let me.
Well, now with that the switch of it being on Wednesdays, now I might actually watch it.
Well, they said with it being on Wednesdays, it's only while the mixed match challenge is going on.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
See, I had high hopes that they would move it to its own location like NXT has, and just pre-record a bunch of it.
Yeah, that's what they
because it would work better in a smaller stadium.
Lucha House Party is Grand Metalik, Kalisto, and Lince Dorado. Lince Dorado was the one I could not think of.
All right. Well, there you go. LWO. Which again, Almas, I wanted to fit him somewhere, but I'm like, it it all's got to make sense. In my mind, a stable's got to make sense, because when it doesn't make sense, it kind of it fails miserably.
Yep.
Like I was thinking McIntyre is the face of a group, right? And I'm like, all right, you put the bar with them, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm just recreating the what was that old group?
Not the Nation of Domination, the League of Nations.
League of Nations, yeah. It might not necessarily be the same people, but still, I'm like, I'm just recreating the League of Nations now.
Which I like the League of Nations.
Yeah, like, and I did too.
If they probably actually honestly if they probably had a manager, they probably would have did really well, or a lot better than what they did.
What they needed was what is his name? Dutch Mantel. Jack Swagger's manager.
Zeb Coulter.
Yes. Zeb Coulter as their manager would have been gold.
I did not like. Zeb Coulter was great with Jack Swagger. He made Jack Swagger WWE champion material.
But him coming out and like just shitting on America with the League of Nations, I think he would have been perfect.
I think it would.
See, there you go. There's one of my favorites, Zeb Coulter.
Yeah, he was real good.
Him and Swagger, they should have gotten pushed more. That was such a perfect.
Well, it's Swagger's fault that he got messed up because he got caught for like driving under the influence, or he got caught with weed or something like that, and so he lost his chance. He screwed himself. But yeah, Zeb Coulter was perfect. I did not like Zeb Coulter as like Del Rio's manager.
Yeah.
But speaking of managers, and you could go with face. Now we're really getting into a role with this. What's his name?
Ricardo.
Yeah, Ricardo Rodriguez was perfect. Either if Del Rio was a heel or a face.
Yeah, it's true.
Like that's where him as a manager worked really well as like even as a face.
Yeah, but it had to be with Del Rio though.
Exactly. He did. Remember when they tried to work it with Rob Van Dam and that did terrible.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. Like you're saying, Paul Heyman and CM Punk worked, right?
Yeah.
Paul Heyman and CM Punk would have worked as a face or a heel group, a combo.
Exactly.
Whatever. They would have been, because both of them can work both ends, and like you said, it makes sense. That's the biggest thing. When something works, it should be able to work either end. But heel groups are just better. They just are.
Well,
why
it makes for
faces
better
don't run in packs.
Yeah, or like, and it makes for the manager to like the manager gets involved and is more there. Like when Ricardo was manager for Del Rio when he was a face, he really wasn't involved in Del Rio's matches or anything. He just basically come out, pump the crowd up with his introduction, and that was it. And Ricardo Rodriguez was the main reason why Del Rio became a face.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
all right, let's keep this moving. Here's one of the Facebook groups, Wrestle Nation Forum, that I'm in. There's a lot of Facebook groups I'm in. The only response I got here was Jim Cornette and the Revival is the only right answer.
That is absolutely correct. That is, yes, like Revival are the best tag team on the roster right now. And
I felt like the Revival and AOP was like, and the Usos, but the Usos had to fit with that person. AOP and the Revival were like the easiest tag team to put into a group in my mind, because AOP is they're so generic.
Yeah,
and honestly, and so is the Revival. That's what makes the Revival. They're old school.
Yes.
We don't need flash, so you can
flips,
can put
just
them
fist.
Exactly. So you can just kind of enter them in with a group and attempt to make sense out of it.
I like Cornette with the Revival.
they're missing. He's missing 2 people, but still.
Well, that's fine. We won't hold them to semantics.
All right, I'm not going to announce every Facebook group that was in. I shouldn't even do it for the first one. Okay, here's another response. Recreate the Dangerous Alliance with Paul E. Dangerously, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, and Authors of Pain. It said Authors of Pain, in my mind, was a very easy one to throw in.
Yeah, again, they don't seem like they would mix together.
No, I don't. I agree with you. This is not a combination for me.
Yeah.
Then we got Father James Mitchell with Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, and Authors of Pain.
Is that just a Samoan stable?
Well, I don't think James Mitchell's Samoan. He's dressed up like a devil and a pitchfork, standing next to 4 Samoans. See, that's another thing that the manager has to match.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. All right. Freddie Blassie to manage Jinder Mahal and the Bar.
I don't think I can comment on that just because I don't know a whole lot about classy Freddie Blassie.
Yeah, I just know his name.
Yeah.
Either way, I don't know. Jinder Mahal and the Bar.
Mm.
I think he's missing the main event guy in that team.
Heath Slater.
Yes. All right, we got Sensational Sherry with Breezango.
Yeah, that could work. that could work real well.
See, that's what you need. You need Breezango, Terry Reynolds.
No, I don't know if Terry Reynolds would work with them.
And then Velveteen Dream.
Velveteen Dream as your main event guy?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Sensational Sherry works better there.
Really?
Yeah, because I at least what I vaguely remember of Sensational Sherry, her outfits are a little more flamboyant enough than Terry Reynolds. Terry Reynolds was just basically hot, is what her kind of gimmick was.
I'm talking Goldust movie director Terry Reynolds,
okay.
Sitting out on the thing. I thought fit a little. You know what? There you go, Breezango, The Miz, and Terry Reynolds. There you
go. Yeah, I guess so. Nah, I don't. Nah, they like. Breezango is too much of a joke team for that.
Wait a second. How long was the Miz to Raj, Curtis Axel, and Bo Dallas? How long?
Couple months, maybe a year.
Then,
but that's the thing.
Hold on. Let me continue this. Okay. How long was Damian Sandow the stunt double for the Miz?
I think that was at least a year.
How serious was either one of those combinations?
But the thing is, and this is where Breezango has their own gimmick that I don't think would work well with the Miz. Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, they had nothing going on. Damian Sandow had nothing going on with their gimmicks at the time. So yeah, you can throw them in with the Miz and make the Miz Taraj or Stunt Devil and something like that. Breezango, it would not mix with the Miz.
I disagree.
Well then, you're wrong.
I think they fit very well. I think they would be able to bring their gimmick, and it would fit perfectly.
And then who was the manager for that one you were saying?
I said Terry Reynolds, but honestly, they don't need a manager.
Yeah, probably just Maurice.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be kind of funny, though, to see Maurice as Maurice's interactions with Breezango.
Exactly.
I think that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. Them go, because she would like almost go off and do stuff, and Miz would just get all pissed.
She would be more the modern day Terry Reynolds for it to work.
But like I could see her going while they do all their different things, like going off and doing it with them, and Miz just looking at her like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like they're here to help us. Stop playing with them. Come on.
Yep.
See, it's got potential, Walt. I see it right now in your head. You're thinking like that interaction between the four of them could work.
Wow, sick move by Styles. He basically did a flip off the rope into a reverse DDT.
Yeah, you're ahead of me. Well, actually barely this time around. Huh? Usually, I think I know why, because I'm actually using the website for the network instead of using the Windows 10 app.
Oh, okay.
The Windows 10 app seems to be a little bit more delayed, because now that you're reacting, I'm only off by like a half a second. It's not really that far off. Okay, well, I'm going to continue on.
Yeah.
We got Jim Cornette with AOP, Ricochet, and Aleister Black.
Nah. Jim Cornette with Ricochet? Really? I thought Cornette hates that shit.
He does.
That makes no sense.
It doesn't. It says his mouth alone could get them all over. Does Ricochet and Aleister Black need getting over? I'm sorry if you who posted this is listening to this. We don't mean to shit on your response. Thank you, we appreciate it. But that's an awful combination. It just, again, it doesn't make sense. Like I'm not trying. This is why I put thought into mine, because I didn't want you to tear what I said apart, because that would have got torn apart.
Cornette hates the Ricochet style. Like now, Cornette with like a Drew Gulak, that would be pretty good. Like again, against like a Ricochet type style, or like that 205 type style. No. That would be pretty good. Here's something: if Father's James Mitchell, right? Then you put Aleister Black, the Ascension. Like we're talking like. We're talking NXT Ascension. 2015 NXT Ascension. Okay. Yeah, not Legion of Doom Ascension. Okay. Well, I'm not even talking about Legion of Doom. Legion of Doom 2000 Ascension. Heidenreich Legion of Doom. And let's say Baron Corbin, but I'm talking about Lone Wolf Baron Corbin. It would make sense. I don't know. I don't know if it would work, but it would. They're all kind of metal. You got the James Mitchell. Yeah. All right. Bobby Heenan with Lars Sullivan, Bobby Roode, and AOP. I told you AOP was going to get said a lot. I did not look at any of these before we started reading these. Yeah, I knew AOP was going to be a common. AOP needs a mouthpiece. That's why they fit well with a manager. And it sucks that they lost Paul Elrig. And they're big badasses, and they're so generic that they can fit with just about anybody. Yeah, except Drake Maverick. I still don't understand it. Hold on, I only seen the first time he came out. Did he come out with He came out the in vest on again? I don't know about the vest. I didn't watch last week. I know he did the first time. Yeah, I didn't watch. I think he's coming out with the vest, and I don't. It doesn't make sense. That's the thing, that if he came out like in a suit, and he was like, I'm making moves around here. Not only am I the general manager, but okay. All right, I get it. I get the whole they're big guys. You got a small guy with them. I understand it. If you can make sense more than just like, hey, I'm making moves. But even him in dresses up as them, it's dumb. But even him in a suit wouldn't make sense, because he wears very flamboyant suits. Because it's still like that kind of rock star Spud style. Still can make sense though, because you got to think of it. The AOP is so generic that it's like, all right, well, you put like a flamboyant type guy with them. I can understand it a little bit. If he's just like, I want to make my way to the main roster, I'm doing all this work in 205 Live, and I found a way in. They really needed some guidance, whatever the hell they want to make sense out of it. Yeah. And I think the fact that he is so, like, if he wore flamboyant suits, would be funnier to see than him in a little vest like he is now, matching AOP's outfits. Yeah, that doesn't. It's like when Kurt Angle came out as the dad of the Shield when Roman Reigns couldn't
Yeah,
wrestle.
yeah. Just let him come out in his regular shit. Like, don't make him look that fucking goofy.
Yeah.
Okay, we got the new Heenan family: AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Anderson Gallows. Why? Because it would be too sweet.
No, like I would love to see a new incarnation of the Bullet Club. I wish they would have pulled the trigger on an actual Bullet Club in WWE. But again, the Bullet Club doesn't need a manager. I don't think, because
No.
the only person that would make sense almost as a manager for the Bullet Club would be Triple H or Vince McMahon, kind of. And I say that in the sense that it's similar to when McMahon brought in the NWO back in the day in WWE. It was shitty. It was like, I'm going to inject the poison. You know what? I'm bringing in the Bullet Club.
You do Shane, somebody like that who's like there and he's like, I'm sick and tired of what's been going on around here, kind of thing. That makes sense.
And then
having random managers,
and then you can also use that to kind of bend the bend reality a little bit to like you have Shane start talking, this is why all these promotions outside of WWE are picking up steam because of these guys. So I brought them in to make WWE the talking point. You bring up New Japan, you bring up Ring of Honor.
You may disagree. Paul Heyman, I feel like, would make a little bit of sense. And I'm always saying because he could be like, you know what? You guys chased out Brock. You didn't give him the contract he wanted, blah, 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 So now I'm here to take over. You know what I mean?
Paul Heyman also makes sense, too, because you could also spin it, I saw what I did with ECW. These guys are doing the same thing. These guys would have fit right in with ECW, so they're my guys.
Yeah, like we didn't get to take our shot early enough when we were at our biggest. I'm going to take that shot now with these guys. Like, I think he would make the most sense outside of a management role, kind of like Triple H or Vince.
Definitely.
Okay, we got Drew, Ciampa, Aleister Black, and Randy Orton.
Who's the manager?
With Paul Heyman.
Oh,
sorry.
Paul Heyman. Okay. Nah.
I don't know who the tag team is here. And if you have 4, you kind of need a tag team unless one's a women's. Unless Ciampa and Black, one of them's still down at NXT and they're jumping back and forth. I don't know. If they had made sense out of a tag team in this answer, maybe.
Well, I think you get, like, some people are just taking it as, let me take 4 guys. Like 4 guys that I think, but not dictating the tag team role, the mid card role, the world championship role.
Again, in the way I asked the question too, I said if you could match up any manager in history, blah 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 blah, with a group of any 4 members of the current roster, who would they be and why? And I didn't expect most, if any, to actually explain why. But if you're not going to throw an already tag team in there, you should explain. In my mind, you should explain it. Because I feel like you got Drew, Ciampa, and Black, who are all, if done right, main event type of contenders. If done right. But they're borderline, But now you got 3 of them that are borderline. And then Orton, who's at the tail end of his career. I don't know that he needs to be in the main event picture either,
Or like Orton as that senior role, like as that veteran presence, especially with where he's at, because then he can still go. Hell, him and Hardy just put on a fucking phenomenal match earlier tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I mean. Like, who's the standout guy in this then? If Orton is your veteran, you got McIntyre, Ciampa, and Black. They all fit into that same bubble to me.
Yeah, there's no.
That's what I mean. I don't know. I think sometimes you get the groups.
You got each like we were talking earlier. Each person
there needs to be some type of role fit. It doesn't have to be the same for role. I mean, honestly, how many have I went through so far, and there has not been a women's wrestler?
That's my only problem. Is I wanted to try to fit a women's wrestler in there, but it was kind of hard for me to kind of pick up or like to kind of put that in there or something like that.
I'm gonna see if I can find one. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody else has a Latin stable with Almas, Vega, Kalisto, and Sin Cara. So they got Selena Vega in there with Conan as the manager. Again, how obvious is that? Kevin Sullivan with Sanity, including Nikki Cross.
Kevin Sullivan?
Yeah. WCW. He was like... I think they used to call him something, but he had like that that Dungeon of Doom or whatever, or the Dungeon or something like that was like his group. It was like Mang and the Barbarian and stuff like that.
I forget. I'll probably take a look after this. I forget.
Yeah, but that one actually is not too bad. Paul Heyman, Undisputed Era. Okay. Paul Heyman, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Also, the Brain with Samoa Joe. Right. Just trying to find some females here. Paul Heyman with the Bar and AOP. He's managing 2 groups. Or 2 tag teams. Ted DiBiase with Lashley, The Revival, Sasha Banks, and Mustafa Ali. So that's 5 there. But there's a woman in it. Not quite sure I see that. Sasha Banks might be the only one there that makes sense with Ted DiBiase. I don't think the Revival does. Like you said, the Revival, Jim Cornette, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just trying to run through. I see how long we've been here. Yeah, I mean, I had a hard time doing it too. My only one was Nia Jax to go with. Either Roman or Joe is the main one, the Usos, or AOP is the tag team, and then Nia Jax.
Yeah.
But again, okay, here we go. Captain Lou Albano with the Usos, Reigns, and Nia Jax. So, there you go.
So they're showing a picture of Ronda Rousey, and she does not apparently have terrible makeup on tonight. So very happy about that.
they toned down her.
Yeah, they turned that down a lot.
Her cat eyes or whatever the fuck that was supposed to be.
I was happy to see it, but it was such a horrible version of the heart attack. Did you see that on Raw?
No.
Natty and Ronda did the heart attack. And it was not great. Ronda messed up. I will say this for the people listening.
Really quickly, I will say this. I know I say all the time I don't watch Raw and SmackDown. Part of that is because of the product, but I work overnight. So I just want everybody to know that that's why I read the results. I don't really get to see it as much. All right. So I'm in no way a WWE hater. I work overnight. I don't usually get to see this shit live.
Usually I watch it if I'll come home from work and I just throw it on one of my second or third screens. But honestly, if it's boring, I'm turning it off and watching YouTube shows.
That's what I used to do. I used to just throw it on as background noise, and then anytime I heard something, but it's been ever since I started working overnights, it makes it difficult. I'm usually sleeping while it's on. All right, really quick, Reddit. Well, did we talk about this on here? The $1 Million Man, Bobby Roode, EC3.
I brought it up,
Sabatelli or Riddick Moss, or was that before we started?
I brought it up on here.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was... All right, here you go. New Dangerous Alliance. Paul Heyman, Becky Lynch, The Revival, Kevin Owens, Drew Gulak, and Bobby Roode.
Yeah, I could see that working.
Yeah, I feel like it could have worked with one or two less people.
Yeah, yeah. See, when you start getting 2 people, you start getting into the NWO stuff, and I get nervous with that because basically everybody was in the NWO back in the day, and it was confusing as fuck.
that's why I said 5. I think you max out. I mean, I said 4. You max out at 5 in my mind. So I was trying to say 4 to kind of, because then it makes it a little bit more difficult choice. Because I figured everybody was going to do main event, mid card, tag team, woman.
Yeah.
If I said 5, so now I do 4. And now you're making that decision, like you do mid card or you do the woman.
Yeah, that's essentially it.
Most people went with mid card.
Well, and it's also too because I think that's how we've been conditioned to kind of think, not trying to.
Yeah.
It's just that's what we're used to. While the women are doing great, it's still like essentially the woman would be the manager in that role, not for like the title. Although you get a team like Sanity who has the woman in there as their mid card.
It's true.
So, but yeah, let's kind of wrap it up with that, just because I realize it's been you and me talking for an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm sure
we can talk for another hour.
We probably can, and that's why I'm cutting it off there. So,
well, let me say this really quickly, just because I did notice this before, and I don't know who this person is. I might have to look into them. Somebody posted this on Reddit. They said Stokely Hathaway. They said it's a great manager from Evolve.
Yeah.
Don't know who it is. I really hate the fact that I'm going to say I don't know if it's a female or a male.
I don't.
But they said Keith Lee, Leo Rush, Lacey Lane, and Ember Moon. And it says it would start with Big Stoke head into NXT, picking up Keith and Lacey. From there, he'd grab Ember off of Raw. Finally, he'd help Leo win the Cruiserweight Championship. Call them the House of the Future. Okay. I liked seeing a different manager, so I wanted to hurry up real quick, because as I was scrolling past, I was like, all right, I don't know who this is. Let me say it out there.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. But now I like seeing new people on there, so that's good. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think so. Was this episode more about managers or stables? I'm still trying to figure that out.
I came up with the idea of doing managers. This will probably be considered a stables
episode.
I mean, how do you talk about managers without talking about stables?
True.
How do you talk about managers for an hour without talking about stables? All right. Well, before we end, Walt, one last question for you.
Yes.
Would you like to see more managers in WWE?
I don't know. It's because you already have a lot of people in WWE signed already, and if you have more managers, you're just adding more. I don't know.
But isn't it also giving more things to do?
It's again
with the amount of people.
Like it's a cop-out answer, but if it makes sense and it works, like so right now, Lilo Rush has been pumping up Bobby Lashley. I think it was like over 2 weeks or 1 week. I forget what it is. But this seems like it might actually work out. And so if Lilo Rush now becomes Bobby Lashley's manager, sure. If it makes sense and it works out. Because then ultimately that would lead to a match between them two maybe at some point, and then that would be a fun match. Two completely different types. And it also does something that I'm hoping they do, is start integrating the 205 Live guys into the main product. Right.
And I think, wasn't the rumor I had seen was that Vince felt like he was paying the 205 Live guys to only work one night a week or something like that. I don't know how much of a joke that was or not. They said that's why, if you notice, it was Drake Mavericks and Leo Rush were both...
I mean, he's not wrong.
Like it, because they don't work any house shows or anything like that. And it's like, we're basically paying them and they're only working one day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's another thing. It's just like the manager thing. It makes sense. So it's very easy to fake that rumor.
Yes.
I personally, I love stables. I love groups.
I like groups with a manager.
I love Survivor Series when it's done right.
If it's two actual teams that
Yes, when it makes sense and it's not, hey, it's 3 weeks before Survivor Series. They picked the good guys against the bad guys, or like Evolution's turning out to be, and hey, here's the match. Now we'll build the storyline instead of having stupid shit happen. Like Alexa Bliss, disses Trish Stratus on Twitter, and then suddenly Trish Stratus calls her out for Evolution.
Yeah.
Now, let's just announce it randomly, and say this is our match. This match that has nothing to do with each other. That's what I always hated about what Survivor Series has become. So I love having stables. I love when there's some type of connection, especially because there's 17 different shows now. If you can get guys where it's like,
well, I like that. I will say
they're interconnected.
I like that the way they do Survivor Series now with like Raw versus SmackDown. I think that's very good because again, it makes sense.
Like, could you imagine Survivor Series comes up and they have a takeover for it, and takeover is Survivor Series main event with NXT against NXT UK.
I would enjoy that.
Yeah, and that's I would hope that could eventually become a thing. But yeah, I've always enjoyed groups, and not just because of NWO and DX. I've always enjoyed groups. Like I said, right now it makes sense because you can have a guy in NXT, but he comes out on Raw to help the other people. It's stuff like that. I enjoyed when Kevin Owens was NXT champion and came out and challenged John Cena.
Yes,
it shows that there's not an invisible fence stopping them from showing up in these places.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. So. Yeah, this was more of a stable talk, but oh well.
Well, literally, we didn't say this is about managers except for at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
So when I title it something different, nobody's going to know except for they're going to think you're an awful host.
Well, yeah, if they haven't noticed that already, then there's. No.
I just love the title of our last episode. Literally says non-wrestling fans. Like, if you listen to our show for wrestling, to see non-wrestling fans as the title, like, I don't know.
Whatever.
I'm great at titling these things.
You are. So, with that being said, what do we got going on next week? We'll figure out the topic on Saturday next week.
I'm gonna fucking bother you the way I've been the last bunch of weeks. I don't have anything in mind right this second, but who knows? Maybe something will come out of tonight. Yep. We'll look forward to
if you have any
something.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts or comments, let us know.
Yeah.
We need all the help we can get.
Yes, and I've not gotten confirmation back, but we may have our second interview in 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know for sure if we are or not, but
something to look forward
when
to.
have we not promoted stuff that's never happened? That shit's been happening since we started this damn thing. So I have no problem promoting something that might not happen. So
all right,
I'm just not saying what it is.
Yeah. So that's it because it's past my bedtime. So, but all right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the smooth sounds of Rest Pass and Walton on this week's episode of Apron Work Podcast. When Mike releases this, give this Facebook post or whatever a like in order to send a prayer to Peachy in hopes that he gets better. He's not sick or anything, but I think that's what you do on Facebook. Yes. A moment of silence right now for Peachy. Yes, we'll do the moment at the end where he usually chimes in with some random thought after I sign off. I was going to do it for him. Okay, well maybe you will. Who knows? You'll have to stick around for the next 30 seconds to find out. No, but thanks again for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next week. Later, guys.